Hello, my friends. So, today I am talking about being real. And what I mean by that is living our lives exactly as they are without trying to paint a picture of something that doesn't exist. Where am I coming from? You know, 2017 to 2018, I think, has been very difficult for a lot of people. And I'm not necessarily talking even about financially, I'm talking about emotionally. Um, so many of my friends and family have gone through a lot of huge transformational changes, unexpected or seemingly unexpected, in this last year. And yesterday, a friend of mine, and I were walking. We do this like almost every evening, and we're just kind of running over, not giving specifics or anything. We're running over the different people in our lives who have gone through so much, and how everybody is always shocked or surprised that this thing is happening to this person. And the worst thing was, we said, nobody's talking, nobody talks, nobody's upfront, about where they are. So when these things happen, we are all stunned and shocked, and we're thinking, how, where were we when this person was going through this? How come we didn't see this coming? And I think the main thing, what we concluded was, this is predominantly a middle income Nairobi or Kenyan problem, middle income Kenyan problem, because we spend so much time trying to live in this perfect picture of these supposed lives that nobody is living. There's nobody who's living that perfect life, but because we have painted suburbia, that's the latest thing. Suburbia is the latest thing. You live in a gated community and you drive, these perfect cars, and you're raising these perfect families with perfect children and perfect spouses and perfect job, and everything is perfect. And because you're not in someone else's house, we don't have, the, what's it called? I don't want to call it a privilege. We don't have the ability to really see what's happening in somebody else's house. We assume that the house next door is brighter than ours, when it isn't. I do not believe any such thing as a perfect situation exists. I believe that most situations are perfect in their imperfection. Um, and I know that sounds like a lot of, philosophical blab or whatever, but I always take myself back to this particular incident, which my brother and I went through just when we moved into one of these perfect communities. So we had moved from South Sea, and we came to visit a friend where I live now. And we loved the place completely because it really reminded us of childhood, like the big lawn and the open spaces, and you don't have a lot of fences and stuff. So we really liked it. So we decided to move in. Now, at the time, we were filming, we were filmmakers, both of us. So, of course, we didn't have a steady income. And a lot of the money that we had was used to plug into whatever projects we were working on. So, this one time, we had just finished shooting somewhere, and we were on Mombasa Road. And my brother had this car we called Arnie. It was a Nissan, I think 16 or B16 or something like that, a Nissan, gray one. And this car was old. We loved it. We loved Ernie. But she was so old. She had really served the family well. And people would hear us coming from, I think 5 kilometers, because the exhaust pipe wasn't working properly. So it should make this noise like a Subaru. But that's what we told ourselves to feel better, It sounds like a Subaru. But anyway, so we were on Mombasa Road, and we were running out of fuel. We had just plugged in our last bits of money into this project. And Ronnie says, you know what, we're not going to make it to the house. So we stop at the petrol station. I remember it was Chomazon, because we used to fuel there because his friend used to run, Chomazon. So we drive in there, and Ronnie's he removes his wallet and shakes his pockets, and he comes up with 100 shillings. And so I'm also shaking my wallet, trying to remove those coins that are in the depth of the ones you never think you'd use in your handbag. Women, you know what I'm talking about. So we removed all these coins. And let me tell you, we counted our money, and it was 175 shillings. I kid you not. And the attendant had been standing there the whole time, waiting for us to finish counting out to shillings. So Ernie takes them in his hand like this, and he hands them over to this guy. And this guy is looking at his hand are you serious right now? And Ronnie says, just fuel the car. So the guy counts it. He looks at Ronnie. He's 175 shillings. Ronnie's fuel the car. Let me tell you, that attendant started laughing. And then Ronnie started laughing. And then I started laughing. And we laughed. And the guy fueled our car for 175 shillings. We were coming to Athi River, guys, from Mombasa Road, 175 shillings. And we laughed. And the guy, as we were leaving, he was like, you know what? He said it in Swahili. I'm going to say it in English so I don't butcher it. And he says, you know what? These things happen. And Ronnie was like, enyewe, these things happen. And we drove off. And Ronnie and I laughed, I swear to God, from Chomazon past the airport because we could not believe where we had reached in pursuit of our dreams, yes. We could not believe that living where we lived, we were fueling for 175 shillings, which we didn't even know would get us home. So as we chugged along, we were just praying, Arnie, please, just turn off into the gate, into the estate, and we'll be fine. And Arnie got us home. And the next day, we were sitting amongst our peers at the local, and sharing stories, and people were talking about all these big dreams and stuff. And at the time, I was sitting there thinking, one day I will get to where my peers are. One day I will get to where the rest of these people sitting on this table are. Because, as I said, perfect neighborhood with perfect cars and perfect homes and perfect children. And, that was the picture that had been painted. And so we assumed that everybody was going through this perfect life and we were trying to get there. Now I look back years later and I realize around that table, there was nobody whose life was perfect. People had mortgages that taken out, people had taken out loans for their cars, people were starting new jobs, so people were hustling in their own businesses. People's homes were not perfect. They were going through their own issues in their own marriages and their relationships with their families, and there was nobody perfect at that table. Of course, you could tell somebody's general financial status based on what you saw on the outside. Like, everybody knew Ronnie and I were hustling, because number one, we didn't hide it. And number two, well, we had this old beat up Nissan car. But they did not know that there were times when we fueled for 175 shillings. We were all just these people, up and coming urbanites, moving into a better neighborhood and living the dream. And nobody really shared their hardships then. Then we were in our early 30s, so nobody really shared. And I think it's only now when a lot of us from that group are hitting our 40s that we realize that it is better to talk about these things. And I think more and more people are becoming open about what is going on underneath the facade of perfection. The problem is people are doing this after they have struggled for so long and after they thought they were the only person going through it. And sometimes by the time you talk, it's too late to make the situation a lot better than it would have been if we had just been open. So today I am talking about, or this week as we go through Life with Mona, we will be talking about being open. Let's own our crap. Because if we own the good things, why would we not want to own the bad things too? Because it's all a part of the same thing, right? So let's own our crap. We have people who have gone through divorces. We have people who have been auctioned. We have people who have lost loved ones. We have people who have been in depression. We have people who have given up. There is so much junk that is happening. And because we are not brave enough to speak to somebody or to say, this is where I am, people are dying inside. And my friend and I were saying yesterday, the post-election violence between 2007 and 2008 did not happen because of things that started the day before the violence happened. It happened because of things that had existed for years and years and years, and we pretended that they did not exist. So all these things that are erupting now in our society are not erupting because the world changed yesterday. They are erupting because we have refused to talk about them openly. So I am encouraging us to talk. Let me tell you, there is nothing you can tell anybody that will shock them so much that they will walk away from you. And if they do, then that person never belonged with you in the first place. So let's talk. Will you be judged? Yes. Will it be difficult? Yes. But guess what? When you rise, and you rise the real person that you are, nothing will ever shame you again. So that's what we're talking about this week on Life with Mona. Join us and let's hear from the experts and see how they can encourage us to step up to our lives, good and bad. Mwah.